Welcome to Babbling Buffoons. All babbling, all buffoonery. I'm Alex.
I'm Bill.
I'm Jack, and today we're going to talk to you about the digital ID and behind the scenes and what our government may try to do without our knowledge.
My first thing on what they're going to do is literally, I think, track and see everyone's criminal record and past, just to see like who's actually done what, who might actually still have active warrants out for them, like big things like that. If somehow say they were to implement it to every person, out there in some way, shape, or form. Like, I think a big behind the scenes thing is they're going to really monitor and heavily watch that and look for people.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be the case as well too, because we still have a lot of crime going on right now and stuff. So you don't even know who's out there and where they're at currently to locate them.
And I'm not even saying the bigger crimes that everyone mainly only talks about. I'm talking about the other stuff like cyber crimes, fraudulent crimes, property, theft of stuff like that, other things that don't really get talked about that are still kind of a big deal because those things still affect people in other ways and whatnot, but they just don't really get talked about as much and whatnot.
Well, let me ask you guys, and we'll ask the audience too, so that way they can actually leave some comments and everything, what they believe is going to be the huge thing that governments try to do behind the scenes. Think about ours. Like I said in the last episode, constitutional. We have constitutional rights.
Mm-hmm.
Behind the scenes, if they implement this, they take things, what makes people believe that they will take our constitutional rights away slowly? Well, they're doing it already, I guess, but makes you think that they might not try to implement things further behind the scenes, such as now we're going to be able to control the people. We know where they're at. We know what they're doing. Now we can control them about if they can fly, if they can't fly, if they're a flight risk, if they're not a flight risk. And then to top it off, what makes you think they don't start changing laws that we don't know about, and then we infringe upon them laws, and now we're getting in trouble with the law, and we don't even know it. They're behind the scenes. They're changing everything because now they have the ability to track us and monitor us at all times.
Well, they're already changing laws on us that we don't even know about now that people probably infringe on, that they have no clue and stuff and whatnot. Because they do it today. They throw a big event in our face to distract us. Next thing you know, we're like, "Did you hear this law they passed? What law?" So they do it now anyway. So even if with the digital ID thing behind the scenes, they would still continue to do it and whatnot. It's just, I think if there would be one slight plus side though to this, if they changed the law and say everyone had the digital ID, they could literally send that to every person and say, "Hey, you have been sent a new change of law. Here is what it is. Please read through and accept that you have received this and you have read it." With terms of service, how we get with stuff like that, that actually could be an implement with that, so that way then people can't then use the excuse of, "Well, I didn't know they changed the law, I didn't get nothing."
Well, it'd be further down the road, because we're not talking as digital ID is that we're going to get notifications in our brain. It's not going to happen. We're going to get notifications however they want. Digital ID is simply to track us, to monitor our lifestyle, and to find legals or illegal immigrants and civilians as well within the country. And I don't know. I really, really think that behind the scenes they're going to change a lot. And I think that if you dive deeper into other countries that have already done it, China, I believe Russia, like I said in the last episode, I'll have to look that up again. I failed to do that. But we stand on a different platform than Russia and China and Japan and stuff like that. We set with a constitution that's protecting us. So I think behind the scenes here would be a little harder for them to do stuff, even though they can. I just know that other countries, they're going to change things. You got British Parliament that pretty much runs the country.
Mm-hmm.
The king, the queen, they're figureheads, yes. I know Queen Elizabeth did a heck of a job running the country for as long as she did, and she did a great job, honestly. But with King Charles, he does sound like he's backing the people and their wants. But what's going on behind the scenes from him? Is he involved in everything, or is the Parliament actually going to change stuff without his knowledge. And I don't even know if he has a sign off on that. He might have a sign off on that, like
Yeah.
our president does.
Yeah, because I'm not necessarily sure exactly how their parliament system works. If it's like, if they kind of do like what we do, to where like we have a process for like laws to go through to get signed by the president to put into effect. I don't know if they have the same principle of like Parliament writes something, then it goes to the king, or maybe the king writes something and goes to Parliament, or maybe Parliament just decides themselves. I'm not sure how their setup works, but is there a way possible that we could have the ID, without the government doing that extra stuff behind the scenes, with them not breaking the Constitution on us or any of those amendments? Like, what if they introduced it? Is it possible that that could be the case? Or do you think because the governments are always so shady, there's always going to be behind the scenes stuff?
Well, there might still be behind the scenes stuff, no matter what. I mean, we're seeing things that's coming out of the woodworks now that not a lot of people knew about, when Biden was in office and stuff. So
Yeah, from Trump to Biden, back to Trump. Yeah, a lot of things changed. I actually didn't know that we had so many illegals come in under the Biden administration until Trump came in and announced it. Like, it was insane. And most of those people are on welfare, government assistance, but
And then think about this. Say if they had a chip implemented, from their previous country, and they came over here and say we had that set up, we could track all of that and figure all that out. But that's a different subject. We're talking about behind the scenes. My biggest issue from behind the scenes that I'd be afraid of is just them randomly shutting you down, without you even knowing about it. Like, say you just wake up one day, you're getting ready to go to work, you've done nothing wrong with your life, but say you just get mistaken, you don't even know it. As soon as you leave your apartment, the door locks and says you no longer have access. Your chip has been shut down. Police are on their way, and you're just like, what do you mean police are on their way?
I think going into a digital era that we're going into with AI and everything, I do believe that would be possible, and I believe that would be possible quickly. Apartments, houses, jobs, you could be able to be locked in, until people come. And that would be the stuff behind the scenes that would scare me, laws that they change on doing that. Now, in the future, those laws would be more acceptable because the people that were growing up with the digital ID, that, like you said, when kids are born, they'll get the chip implemented, and if the parents allow it. I'm sure the parents have to have some type of consent since they're under 18. But even if they didn't, if they had the chip in them, they're going to grow up with it.
Well, what I figure what they possibly would do on that is give the kid the chip, but at like a certain age, put in certain aspects onto it, when they reach certain things and whatnot. Like, like how we have now, like in life, like when you hit 16, you're able to start legally be able to drive. When you hit 18, you can legally vote. When you hit 21, you're now allowed to buy alcohol. Like, it would be stuff like that, but on the chip version, but just different things and whatnot, and stuff like that. But the other problem is behind the scenes, say they do something wrong in school, say they say one bad word, now all of a sudden there's police at that school.
Or fall asleep.
Yeah.
Maybe misbehave. Have a little scuffle at recess, which kids are kids. They're going to have that.
Yeah. And the thing is that they do that and say behind the scenes, they're like, oh, well, if he's causing problems now, he could be a trouble one. Let's put a flag on his chip to watch him for future events, but we won't tell him that he's being monitored like this. Like, that could be an issue behind the scenes, and people are just like you said, kids are just being kids. There's going to be little scuffles and roughhouses and stuff, but that shouldn't mean behind the scenes, you get flagged as a little kid for a potential threat in the future.
So let me run this by you. We're talking digital ID. We're talking behind the scenes. This is crazy because over in China, there is a digital school. It's completely monitored by digital.
Oh.
It's AI operated digital and everything. So it actually monitors kids' brainwaves to see if they're actually learning or thinking about other things. Parents have no say so over there. They have no say on if you're allowed to do that with their child or not. Even if the parents say no, I don't want you to, that child goes to that school, that's what happens. They want kids strictly immersed into their learning and what they want to teach them.
Now, see, that part is scary, for the fact is, when you cut off imagination and creativity, you cut off ways to improve life. That right there that's conditioning to me. That to me is a form of conditioning, because if you're trying to just strictly focus kids like that to just do one thing, like when they're young like that, no. like, yes, try to teach them they need to learn, but at the same time, they need to be creative because that's what sparks creativity for life. Now, when they get older and whatnot, like in middle school, high school, that's different. Yeah, they just need to be learning. They don't, like, have a little creativity still, but you need to be more focused on those curriculums because those are going to, depending on what you want to do in life, are going to help you. But when you're a child, no, let them have their creativity and their fun. That to me sounds way too scary.
Oh yeah, big time. And it's like, well, that it's just all kind of mutual control is what I think of that right there. Honestly, I mean, who would want something like that on their own kid out anywhere else in another country? I mean,
well, on top of that, it's like what Jack said too. The parents have no say. So that's another thing behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, the governments are controlling all the schools, controlling how the kids are learning and doing. That to me is a form of brainwashing or a form of conditioning and whatnot. So that's a scary thing. I actually didn't know about that or think about that. That is a scary factor.
Yeah, a guy we work with actually told me about it, and I did look into it, and it actually exists or did exist. I can't remember if it's even actually still open, but I do know that it was a thing over there. And behind the scenes, if you're talking China's doing this, and their governments want to only teach kids a few things. They want to teach you how to fall in line. They want to teach you that whatever they tell you is correct, and they want you to work. Mm-hmm. You got to pay your taxes. You got to pay your dues.
Yep.
Now, if you're getting the kids that are in school and the future kids that are going into school, it's eventually just going to fade right into reality. It's going to take parents and people like us, kids that may be in college now or just got out of college, young adults, to actually say no to it. But behind the scenes, if China can do it, I'm sure there's loopholes for any government to do it. I would definitely be afraid of the UK. They would do it. I'm sure UK would do it.
And then the other thing, if you think behind the scenes about it as well and whatnot, that I didn't necessarily think of, say if every country goes to eventually hits digital ID and is able to implement everybody, what's to then stop one world government from happening?
Oh, it's definitely a reality.
Because if everyone's got a chip and everyone's, being able to be tracked and whatnot, what's the point of different governments having different things if everyone's going to probably have to follow the same rules and the same system and whatnot? So I feel like, behind the scenes, this could be a form of way of one world government to also try to be formed as well.
Now, the one thing I do like about what you're bringing up for one world government, the only thing I could like right off the top of my head is global currency being the same. I'm tired of people coming here from another country that values our money more in their country, and they're able to send $1,000 back and it's $30,000 in their money. Mm-hmm. I think that's bullcrap, because I understand what our president and what our society is trying to do and change immigration and help us over here, because ultimately I want our dollar to stay. If we got immigrants coming in, and I'm not saying it's wrong, I understand sending a little bit of money back and helping, but I want our money to keep going back in our economy so prices stop going up.
Yeah. Because
if let's say somebody makes $40,000 a year, but they send $10,000 back and they only spend $30,000 in the United States, they're gonna be like, well, our resources dictate this is how much we should have made. We're losing money. We need to up it and make everybody else pay more. I don't think people understand that. If we go to a global currency, I think that could be really good.
It could be. It definitely could be, because then, no matter what, like you said, you can go. One of the big plus sides is you can go anywhere in the world and not have to wonder, like, conversion rate of what,
exactly.
Your currency is from your place, because, like you said, American dollar could be worth, $10 in one country, or for some reason you go to another, it could only be worth, say, 70 cents to them. It could lose somehow denomination over there and whatnot, which is possible. But if everyone's running one specific currency, you don't have to worry about that. You can be like, oh, I want to buy this. Okay.
I know it's $1, or I know it's $1.50.
Yeah, whatever the price says on there, you don't have to be like, oh, what's the conversion rate? Yeah, you can just instantly be like, oh, it's $10. Here's $10, and
right. But no, I do know that they. When my daughter was younger, we were talking to the banks about getting her account set up, and they told me a long time ago, you don't even have to sign for it. It'll just be a thumbprint. Now it's not even gonna be a thumbprint. It's gonna be, I hold my hand up, I scan it.
Yeah, it'll just.
And guess what? Boom, done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure it's going to be linked to your email. I'm sure it's going to be linked everywhere to where if I need to know how much money I have, boom, That's all I got. I better stop spending.
And see, that's the other scary part behind the scenes too. Is what's to stop the government saying like, what if say like after they run the numbers for the year, they realize that they're still say $100 million short to like revenue to break even or something. What's to stop them from going inside everyone's account digitally and just taking a little bit of money to break even from that, and you don't even recognize it happen?
Could be, definitely could be, because you're not going to have to balance your checkbook. You're not going to have to do anything that we were taught as a younger age to do.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to know, oh, this is my balance, cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe not even have records.
right, and also the way things were balanced back in the day. When I remember my mom, because like she had her own personal balance checkbook with all her checks, and whenever she paid on a bill, she would write down the company's name, how much she sent or is sending, and then she would write the check out and have it mailed out.
I remember my mom doing the same thing. Growing up, every like week or two, just going into the kitchen, seeing her there with her checkbook, the different bills and stuff, writing down the same thing and whatnot. Yet nowadays, most people just be like, I wonder how much money I got, and just go straight to an app.
Yep.
Cool, I got that much. All right, I'm good and stuff. But
See, I grew up right in the middle of that era. I started learning checking and everything and balancing in school, and then when I shortly after school started going digital. But we don't want to get off topic too much. But no, like you said though, behind the scenes, what makes you think the government won't keep changing stuff? And then if you go to a new world order type thing, a whole world government, who's leading it?
Yeah, that is another good question.
You're going to have leaders in every country fighting. What's that going to cost?
Yeah.
War?
I mean, there could be a potential, probably, but I mean, that's not likely either.
There's that, because how... I don't know. It'd just be... I don't know. That actually.
Do you put businessmen? Do you put the most powerful businessmen in charge of all of our finances? And how do we dictate how much things cost? Do we give that to a group of people, or do we give power to one person? If you're going you're going currency into the future. One currency, one world order. When do we now go under? Who do we govern under? Do we govern under our Constitution and our figurehead, our president, or would we go under China rule if they were elected, or would we go under Russia? If Putin was to come in power. Again, when you do a world order, what's in to say they can't just change something instantly?
Well, here's the other question. Say we do have a one world order. What are they going to do behind the scenes after they list out a standard amount of rules to the people? Say we figure out who's leading, who's doing that. Say we get all that figured out. Everything's figured out, where the capital is and whatnot. What's to then stop them from doing shady stuff behind the scenes then? Even though it's one government, there's still going to be shady stuff behind it that we're not going to know about. Because like I said, they can just go in, take your money, your currency, your livelihood, take your credit score. They're going to have a social score. That'll definitely be a thing because
it's already in.
Well, I know it's in China, but I'm saying I guarantee that would be a thing implemented everywhere, because with social media and bullying and all this other stuff and whatnot, and then the other thing is with that, you have to then wonder what then rules would we follow? What would be considered constitutional rules, or what would be considered actual governing rules? And then, will religion then play an aspect in that following thing, with the one world government? Will there be also specific religious rules, and whatnot? That's the other question. Too many things behind the scenes for each different thing, man. It's constantly scary because we'll never know.
For digital wise, yes. Well, we're never going to know. I mean, you think about it now. Everybody knows that. I think this is probably one of our greatest presidents we've ever had, and he's done a lot of good for the country, but he's done a lot of negative stuff for the country as well. I mean, our country needs immigrants. They do the dirty jobs. They do the hard jobs. They do the jobs that us lazy Americans don't want to do. So my concern when we go digital is a lot of these countries they come from, they're not going to have the infrastructure. They're not going to have the ability to do digital ID. You're going to look at the superpowers that do. You're going to look at China, Japan, Russia, UK, France, Spain, us. I mean, you look at it a lot. Australia probably will have it as well too, and at least in their major cities. I don't know if a lot of people in the outskirts would, but you're looking at a lot of third world countries that have no idea how to do this or implement it, and do they even have the infrastructure to do it?
Well, then here's something like you said, because we're trying to restrict them from sending so much money out and wanting them to do the jobs and stuff like that and whatnot. Have them come in the country, apply for citizenship, but the requirement for the citizenship is you get chipped and whatnot, so that way we know where you're at. You're restricted from sending money home. If you want to go out and get a job, that's fine, but the money that you make will stay in here. You'll spend it in here for a certain amount of time, which will be part of your citizenship of being here and whatnot. After a certain amount of time, you can do this and whatnot, but that's a whole other different thing, because there's so many other things that can go on about that as well.
Right. And we're going to probably wrap that up on this subject. I'm sure there's a lot more we could talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But, guys, if you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button. Please show the love to the community. Hit that like button. Always make sure to feel free to leave a comment. But, until next time, I'm Jack.
I'm Bill.
I'm Alex. This has been Babbling Buffoons. All babbling, all buffoonery.